Okay. Pretty sure we are just about at an official rating. I think this is also the highest rated player we have faced so far. Into another Sicilian, so we still haven't faced d4. Eventually we'll get there. But for now we can stick with our dragon, and I don't even think we've gotten this far into a mainline, which of course we do expect to see more and more of as the level of opponent increases. I go with the early queen d4. Okay. So we start by blocking with knight f6. If they play e5, I think we start with knight c6 to kick the queen away, see where it wants to go, because we can gain that tempo comfortably. And I hope they play queen c3, because that is our fun little trick. It might be psychologically they want to keep the e5 pawn protected with the queen as well. But of course, as we have learned, that is a very dangerous square. And if not, then I'm not actually 100% sure, because we'll have to move this knight. I would like to have played knight d5, but this one, do we play knight g4, or do we have time to come all the way back? I'm inclined to say knight g4, because I think they'll have to make another queen move to protect this pawn at some point. Like they can go bishop f4, but then bishop g7. Or actually, this might be one of the moves we get to play knight takes e5, because of knight takes and queen a5 check. I think I may have mentioned this actually, that it wins a pawn. Or is this the wrong line? Because then they can play queen c3 and block that check. What do I remember? Yeah, I think it might be queen d1. That's the one where we get to take this pawn. So let's try this instead. Next, again, knight takes pawn, queen a5 check. Also attacks the knight, but queen c3, which they wouldn't be able to do from d1. So instead, I will expect most likely bishop f4. If they play queen e4, that's sort of what we are hoping for sooner or later. But maybe then I can come back to knight takes e5. Anytime they don't get to play queen c3. But bishop g7, I think we're always happy to play. And if I ever have to play knight h6 for whatever reason, I think that's probably fine too. But we're going to keep pointing at this pawn. Argue that white is a little misguided with their opening choice. Queen e2, okay. So is this a moment where I can get away with taking on e5? It's a little bit of calculation. I think it's just if there's a bishop on e5, I can't give a check, because that bishop can also come back to c3. But if we say knight takes, check. I don't know if there's anything weird with b4. I don't really want to play queen a5 right away. If they play bishop d2, queen has to move again. Could play just queen c7 and say that's good. I don't know that I have to play this the forcing way. I'm a little scared to commit to queen a5 because I don't feel like I can be entirely sure that I'm not going to be leaving a piece too loose on e5. But maybe I will go with queen a5 just to really keep up pressure on this pawn. Because that is obviously our biggest target. Our king shouldn't be in any trouble staying in the center. There's not any random e6. We take that. And what I've settled on is if bishop d2, then I do think queen c7, probably not. Something like queen d5, because then knight c3. It's more developing with tempo. But if knight c3, then I'm not sure we can't just take this pawn. So you have 4 attackers now, just a ton of pieces. They shouldn't have any tricks with the knight coming to c7. At worst, we castle away. And now I think also there's no b4, because if we take that, then the knight on c3 is hanging with check. Again, as long as there's nothing weird with a bishop takes e5. So let's say it takes, knight takes. It's a weird move, b4. But I'm still not convinced that it's actually safe to take this pawn. But I don't know that I have a good way to make it safe either. Like, I could sack some material just for fun. I don't hate that. It might even still be good enough for black. I don't know if it could be, like, I get a bishop takes c3, then take the rook on a1, and it's like a rook, a piece, and a pawn for a queen. And if they don't go for that, then I think I'm just a lot better. I don't think bishop takes... Actually, no. This line bishop takes does help, doesn't it? Because then again, b4, there's bishop takes c3. And whenever they take and let me play queen takes, then we've settled it. We're just going to be up a pawn. Isn't that just easier? I think that is just easier. I don't know if I overlooked that or was thinking of something different. But I think this is our better capture. Again, we keep that attack on c3, so there's none of this trick. And we'll see if my concerns were founded once we get to analysis, but this looks to me like we are just up an entire pawn. Queens are forced off, and again, anything like knight b5 we can castle. Sure, they can attack the rook once, but that's not good enough. And this, okay, that's fair because it attacks the e7 pawn as well. But then I think I'm okay playing king d8. We could consider castles, knight takes, rook e8, see if we get any kind of discovery on the open file, but I don't think we're going to have a productive tactic with the knight, so we'll just play king d8. They don't have any other pieces to help that knight. I don't think this is dangerous. Obviously, d7 is extremely well protected. The question is just, do I feel like kicking the knight with e6, or does that leave a couple weaker squares, get anything close to worsening this bishop? I do think it's worth chasing this knight back. Because otherwise I would play d6. I can't play bishop c4 anytime soon, but I think they should be pushed back. Knight f6, just king e7. And then probably something with d5, then I can come to c6, and then we'll slowly push our way forward, which isn't perfect down under a minute, but it's a pretty clear position, I think. I shouldn't have too many deeper thinks other than just evaluating a course of action. So king e7 gets away from the file. Then I just need a solution for this bishop. Could also think b6, bishop b7, because d5, that bishop kind of gets shut in. I just need to be careful maybe that they don't get a piece on d6. Like, they could have played knight b5, and maybe I'd have to go like f6 and knight f7. But I mean, worst case, I can also play d5 before the knight lands. So let's see if they actually are considering knight b5 at all, and then I can make that decision. If they'd played g3 instead, then this wouldn't have been as appealing because their bishop gets on the diagonal first. But as is, that is not the case. Okay, so I won't have the knight f7 move, but we can still go to c6. Now I think knight b5 I would play d5, but if not, then bishop comes to the long diagonal first, maybe a6. Either kicks it back or encourages a helpful trade. This doesn't exactly threaten knight d5, but I should be aware of that. Maybe rook d8, then check. We can just go back to f8. And then there's knight f6, and that does get kind of complicated, doesn't it? What about d6, check, and then the king can walk over all the way to c7? Might be a little stupid, but we'll give it a go. I guess they have done a decent job getting their pieces coordinated faster than I have been able to. And I figure rook fd8 should always protect d6 well enough, because they aren't pointing both rooks at it, and if the knight attacks it as well, that's kind of slow. Shouldn't be any strange knight forks. If knight check, king d7, knight b5, b4, that would be fine. And this, I think, makes it a little easier again. I don't think that knight on e4 is a dangerous piece. They could, yeah, try to lock this down, but I could also kick this bishop now. I think they keep it on the board, but not entirely sure. And then maybe knight a5, and I can play on the c file. Could be useful. Attacks the c4 pawn. Does attack this knight. I don't know if I want to take that. Maybe, if I think it is the most dangerous piece. I don't think I ever want to play f5, because then this pawn on e6 is incredibly weak. Do I want to take that knight? Because then I get very safe play. I can just stay on dark squares, and this bishop won't ever be a concern. And if not, then just a rook to c8. It does blunder a pawn, does it not? I think we can safely take this. They might be trying some f5, but that is not all that fast, and I am still able to take this knight, so I think this might be a good time for that. And then either rook c8 or d5. I think rook c8 first, because I can spook them on the file. And d5 is safe, because if rook takes, I can play rook takes. And taking the knight is not good enough for them. I can play b5 to superinforce it. Could take once on f5, but I don't think I have to do that. And then I just need to be a little careful that I don't let something through on e6, but maybe king d6 is an improvement. Get away from the most dangerous rook. They take once, that's fine. If they double, there's rook e8, maybe e5, but then they could take the knight, which I'd be kind of relying on to protect a pawn on e5. I think rook e8 should be good. Okay, that doesn't scare me. Let's play knight e3. Doesn't win material because they can take on c8, but it does force another trade. Now I would like to take on f5 because the knight is attacking it as well. I would think they should take on e6, well, after they move the rook, and maybe try to get in on f7, but even then there's rook c7. And I should have two connected center pawns pretty much no matter what. Yeah, so we can come back to our safest square. Maybe I want to trade the bishop with knight d2 check, but I kind of like leaving that bishop not doing a lot where it is. Not sure. Rook endgames are, yeah, as expected, but that is not the right moment. Because that is a straight up fork. Perfect. So, I don't know how I feel about that game as far as this whole queen a5 stuff. So this is fine, of course. Normally the move is knight takes d4, but occasionally you'll get someone who takes with queen. And block c5, knight c6, and yeah, I referenced if they play queen e3, our trap is e6, because if they take the knight, there is bishop b4, pinning and winning that queen. So we'll come back to that. But I think for the moment, I just want to focus on this whole queen a5 check thing. So even here, yeah, here it does not work for sure, because knight takes, queen a5, there's queen c3. I think I'm convinced of that, and I don't think I have a good move at that point. And then the move after, I don't think it works, because if we played something like knight takes. Well, actually, sorry, the queen is still protecting c3, or able to move to c3, so we can ignore that up to here. And here there's that question again of whether we can play knight takes. But the problem is, compared to the game, if we go knight takes, bishop takes, I obviously can't go knight takes, queen takes, trade off all those minors and play queen a5 because they would have their queen on e5. And if we played bishop takes, queen f5 check, their bishop can also come back to c3. So I think there as well, it just doesn't work. And here I may have just not really appreciated that it is, I think, simple. But I don't know, I'll check if the computer ever has any concerns about b4, but I guess I don't expect so. And then this, is a clean pawn that we don't want to get forked. We'll see if e6 is entirely sound, or if I could have done something a little faster, like even here actually b6 probably makes a lot of sense. Just get the bishop out first and then argue we're a little more flexible with the pawns. Because as is, here was the moment I think knight b5 could also have been played, trying to come into d6 where it would be really annoying, and I likely played d5 just to make sure it can't. But then there would be that pawn on d5 that makes it harder for this bishop, but even then, bishop d7, rooks on the c file, I think black still has pretty decent play there. And then, I think this was probably the last moment where I was actually concerned a little bit with knight d5 check, but I was planning just king d7, king's, I think, safe enough, and it can always go over to c7, and all the pawns are protected. After that, I was playing a little risky with the clock, but I think I was probably pretty solid with the rest of that play. So let's take a look. They have run this, and as it turns out, no big mistakes, just 3 inaccuracies along the way. So up to our opening was here, I think we are certain, but then we have to check. Where was white's real deviation? Is that the right chapter? Yes, it is. d4 takes and queen takes. So knight f6, very consistently e5, and knight c6. So a few different moves, but queen d3 is way down the list. And I mean, we're not going to study every single one of these different moves, I think. We're just, I think, generally aware of the potential on this diagonal, whether that's the bishop to b4 or the queen to a5. Because the line I mentioned is queen c3. We get to try this e6, because I don't know how. Shockingly, somehow, even under our conditions, no bullet. This is blitz. People still think that white is winning a knight, but in fact, they would be losing a queen if they did that. And even if they see it play a3, even that's not a great move. We can just centralize the knight and still be doing really well. And after that, I mean, those are really the only 2 moves that white plays. So that is why I am such a fan of this line, because it is sound, and also white plays it worse than they should. So instead of that, we got queen d3, which just is not mentioned here. If they'd played queen a4, then we're always looking to centralize this knight. It can keep going to b6 if it has to. And okay, this is that funny theoretical line where, we played this d5, and then eventually things settle down into a very reasonable position. I don't remember if I think that one is trainable somewhere, but if not, it's pretty direct. So okay, let's come back to the game, where queen d3 is an inaccuracy. It is because of knight g4, because to show what I spent some time figuring out is we can't take this, because knight takes check, even though it attacks 2 things, white can solve both problems with queen c3, and we've just lost a piece. So we can't do that. We can play knight g4, bishop f4, and queen b6 is best. Okay, I see. That's a completely different double attack, where we're attacking b2, and we're attacking f2. Okay, that would have been, a very good move as well then, because there just isn't a solution to both. And I mean, if the machine move is to let black take on f2, I have to think we're optimistic about that, wherever that goes next. But failing that, bishop g7 is as it was. And knight c3, it makes sense to block that diagonal and avoid maybe the biggest problems, but it is just giving up a pawn. So I can understand why human players would not tend towards that, because, yeah, you just don't give up pawns if you feel like you have a chance at holding on to them. Queen e2. Queen a5 we think isn't perfect, although it's still showing up near the top, just d6. Seems a little odd, but I guess our point is b2, right? Yeah, if they take that, then they lose on b2. And if they can't do that, then I don't know. I guess this queen is just really badly placed in front of the king. This bishop can't develop, so white has, I don't know. I haven't been counting how many queen moves, but it's been a lot up to there. Queen a5, knight c3. Yeah, I guess I can check one more time on this. Knight takes e5. I think I had said knight takes. Did I say knight takes, or does that just transpose to the game, maybe? Okay, maybe it was possible here as well. But we just play the check first. And then, yeah, we are okay to take this. So yeah, I don't remember exactly what I had said during the game, what moments where I was considering something with this, but the idea would be, if we ever, and I guess I could take on f3 with check. That's something I hadn't seen either, depending on exactly where the pieces are. But the idea would be if they have something where now they can play bishop takes and protect this knight. But I don't know. Maybe I was just getting a little confused by everything attacking each other. But this, yeah, I think is just a clean pawn. Just double checking if there was anything else to consider here. I don't think there really was. Maybe knight takes is a better example of what I meant, actually. Where here we go, bishop takes, and if we take that, then bishop takes e5. Yeah, this is a better example. And this, yeah, is one where I was planning to play queen takes c3, I think. Because, yeah, the bishop does protect it, but we obviously can't do this, because now we can't take at all. And if we check, white is just up a knight. I think this is mostly the line I had in mind. Yeah, I think I came around to bishop takes late. So yeah, here it would have gone something. I do think I would have taken that. Maybe queen c7. I had mentioned at one point, but not exactly here. Where we can take this, and once this all settles down, we do have a decent amount of material for the queen. I guess it's a bishop, a rook, and 2 pawns, which is why we're even very slightly better. But our development is also not anything special, so very much a full game to play. Okay, it did turn out that we were clean coming through here. So like if we're checking the evaluation ups and downs, pretty stable. Like there was one slightly better opportunity, and then the way the game actually went, we didn't make any mistakes through there. So that's good to see. Queen takes, trade queens, and yes. How are we doing with this? I could play rook b8 first, I guess. That's also true. I don't have to move the king. Just that I didn't love castles, knight takes, because I really don't think there's anything, or that's a check even. I really don't think there's anything with rook e8. It's just way too slow. Even if I didn't have to move away from that check. So this is okay. e6 we do seem to like, but of course not our only option. e7. I think this was our point where I said maybe knight to b5. And it's true, okay, we could go after white in response in a very similar way with knight g4. But I was more thinking about if you play something like b6, knight d6, I wasn't sure I loved getting involved with this. Just because that knight's kind of annoying, sitting in the center. Blocking our d-pawn, making it harder for our bishop to develop. So I may have just played d5. And then, like I said, bishop d7, one of the rooks, probably this rook to c8. Yeah, still doing very well for black. So h3, we keep developing, and yeah, I think unless the computer tells me something is wrong, I'm not unhappy to skim through that. Knight check, I was planning king d7, if check again, just king to c7. Although I did see it looked like it liked the other direction better. Maybe it wants to argue that white gets some kind of play on the king side. But this is a funny one where, yeah, the computer says turn around, but then if they give a check, well, this is where you actually have to come up with a different answer. And I guess I could go this way, I just didn't want to leave this d6 pawn unprotected. Like, having pushed it to d6, it's because I felt like the king was going to be protecting it, but similar to a couple of moments I mentioned during the game is whenever this knight moves, I can always just protect that pawn again, because it's only being attacked once. And worst case, I can play to d5, my king is fully away from the rooks, so that does make some sense. But instead, we just got simpler rooks to the center. My time was down to about 10 seconds, so I don't feel like I need to care about a6 as an inaccuracy, but for completeness, it does seem to think takes and takes, but yeah. -2, I am up a full pawn and apparently a better position, since this is a lot more than a -1. a5, rook c8, pretty consistent. Again, I don't remember all of the tactical tricks I was thinking about along the way, but all of this seems to be like it was pretty clean. And then, yeah, they blundered a full rook. If they didn't, I don't know. I guess they could take this first, but there's just no good way for white to ever stop these pawns. I mean, as it is, this king is even completely cut off by the rook on c4. If they play rook f1, maybe even rook c7, just to completely stop that rook, or I could wait. I could wait for the rook to come down and then play rook c7. Trading is hopelessly lost in king and pawn, and if not, then, well, again, these pawns go all the way, and this king is helpless to try to stop them. So, pretty decent game. As far as, again, the actual moves that appeared on the board, I don't think there's anything I'd be that unhappy about. We got to test this rare queen takes, which I guess if we want to check our numbers, close to 1 in 5 games. But they chose not a great square for the queen. Worst case, it is still about equal, but instead black got an advantage, and I hung onto it the rest of the game. So, that's all for today, I guess. Thanks for watching. See you next time.